Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. Well, March is Ag Month in Kansas, and we'll talk Kansas agriculture with Kelsey Olsen, the Assistant Secretary of Agriculture here in Kansas. We'll also have features from the Kansas Soybean Commission, Kansas Department of Agriculture, and Kansas Grain Sorghum, plus the weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
Well, a study of America's farmers' adoption of precision agriculture indicates that during the first 2 decades of the 21st century, the acreage farmed and automated systems have increased tenfold or more. The findings are reported in a study conducted by Kansas State University precision ag economist Dr. Terry Griffin and colleagues within USDA's Economic Research Service. The report, titled Precision Agriculture in the Digital Era, Recent Adoption on U.S. Farms, is now available online. Griffin said the report studied adoption of precision technology on several major crops like corn and soybeans, winter wheat, grain sorghum, and more. He says the more adopted technology typically has the word automated in their names. He said the reason for that is they tend to make life a little bit easier for the operator than it did before they had the technology. An example, the Griffin says, the equipment that provides automated guidance makes life easier for farmers as they go to work in the fields, but the user doesn't have to understand any of the high technology that goes into it. Well, the latest federal data shows that in 2021, U.S. food and beverage manufacturing sector employed 1.7 million people. That's more than 1.1% of all U.S. non-farm employment. Now, within the U.S. manufacturing sector, food and beverage manufacturing employees accounted for the largest share of those employees at 15.4%. The Economic Research Service has announced the data say the employees help transform raw agricultural materials into food products for intermediate use or even final consumption to thousands of food and manufacturing plants of beverages as well, located throughout the country. Manufacturing jobs like processing, inspecting, packing, janitorial, and guard service, along with product development and record keeping, as well as those non-production duties like sales and delivery and advertising and clerical routine office functions as well. Well, some 400 ag groups appealing to the House and Senate budget committees to provide, quote, sufficient budgetary resources to write a new farm bill. In the letter, they said just as there are many pressures on the federal budget, there are many pressures on U.S. farmers and others throughout the ag supply chain who provide food, fuel, feed, and fiber, as well as other products to consumers across the U.S. and abroad. Congress is not expected, though, to agree on a budget resolution this year, but the House at least could vote on a version that Republicans, who narrowly control the House by a 222 to 213 mark, are trying to agree among themselves on a blueprint for slashing spending on many domestic programs. Now, farm groups say rising tensions with China underscore the need for the next farm bill to be more meaningful in predicting a farm safety net and the need to invest more into trade promotion programs to help diversify the ag markets. The letter says funding is needed to address issues like crop insurance, conservation, rural development, food security, as well as research. We'll have more coming up in just a moment. National Farmers Union annual meeting that went on in San Francisco. We'll have more coming up in a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com.
And our guest is Kelsey Olsen, who is Assistant Secretary of Agriculture for the state of Kansas. Kelsey, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me today.
All right, it is March and it is Ag Month in Kansas, and also spring, renewal, and everything. In fact, next week, kind of recognizing and celebrating agriculture here in Kansas.
Yep, we're excited to celebrate Ag Day on March 21st. Kansas will be recognizing it as well as part of the national level, and we celebrate National Ag Day.
And it is kind of a time to pause, but many of us say, well, every day is kind of Ag Day, and it really is. And but Kansas is still one of the leading states for so many commodities. I can think of off the top of my head, sorghum, and we keep growing more corn, and of course cattle, and so we do have a lot of things to celebrate. Maybe not only those big commodities, but maybe some of those specialty ones as well.
Certainly, Kansas ranks in the top 5th of all states as regards to agricultural value and products that are produced. And as you mentioned, a lot of that is the dairy industry, the beef industry, our commodities, corn, soybeans, sorghum. We're the number 1 sorghum producing state in the country. So there's lots of things to be proud of and to talk about in Kansas agriculture. And
also you've got a lot of folks that are going around the state, maybe not dealing with production agriculture, but just all the different things that the department is involved with.
Yes, we think that we touch lives of Kansans every day, whether it's through our food safety inspections and ensuring Kansans eat safe food, or with weights and measures where we help ensure that when you pump a gallon of gas at the gas station, you are getting a gallon. So there's lots of areas that we touch on, and including water and our natural resources. So there's agriculture is important in many ways for the state.
Right, and water is one that, the legislature's been talking an awful lot about water. A lot of folks have talked about water and what's going on in the Oval and other places in the state, and you have the Department of Water Resources that does a lot of work, and again, that goes beyond agriculture as well.
Mm-hmm. All of the water rights in the state of Kansas are appropriated through the Appropriation Act, of which our Division of Water Resources administers. So that doesn't matter if it's for irrigation or for municipal use or for industrial use. Those water rights are all managed at DWR.
All right. And again, if folks didn't know, the Department of Agriculture is located in Manhattan. So that it seems like it's just been not very long ago, but it's actually, you've been in Manhattan now for several years.
We have. You're going to put me on the spot because I don't know the exact year we moved, like 2012 or 13. Right. We're coming up on the 10th year. I believe it was in 24. Well, we haven't been there quite 10 years.
Understand. Well, a long time, here in Topeka, close to the capital, but still being close to Kansas State and NBAF and all that stuff, so it's very exciting there. So Kelsey Olsen, who is Assistant Secretary of Agriculture, is joining us. We're going to take a quick break, come back and talk more as we celebrate March being Ag Month here in Kansas. So stay with us.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
And our guest is Kelsey Olsen, who is the Assistant Secretary of Agriculture for the state of Kansas. March is Agriculture Month, and so we talked a little bit about kind of some of the things going to be going on next week and just kind of talking about Kansas agriculture in general. A couple of things we want to focus on, and one that's, very important, and anybody in agriculture knows exports are important, not only for our grains, our cattle especially, and others, and even some of those maybe smaller products we don't think about a lot, but add up.
Absolutely. So we're very proud of the export numbers. The last 2 years, we've been over $5 billion in exports, and we are tallying the final numbers for 2022, and we're expecting to see those numbers trending very strong, also and looking to announce those soon, hopefully.
Okay, well, very good. Look forward to that. Also, I understand you did a survey kind of talking with some of the ag producers and agribusiness and kind of seeing what their challenges are. What'd you find?
Yeah, so we held a survey for our workforce needs to better understand what our ag industries are being faced with. And probably the number one concern that we've been hearing is a workforce shortage. This is true for the beef industry, our pork industry, our equipment manufacturers that we have in the state. We are continuing to be up against the challenge of not enough workers or the right skill sets to do the jobs.
All right, so now it seems like everybody kind of has some of those same concerns as well, trying to find workers and even the skilled workers. And so I know there's been a lot of work too to try to help fill those gaps or maybe help with some training. But we know that there are feedlots and other, and even it seems like on social media we're seeing a lot of farmers just looking for farm hands.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One of the things that the Department of Agriculture has been trying to address here in Kansas is try to provide some immersion activities for our young students, high school students, where we go and facilitate a day where they might go and visit a landscaping company or go and spend a day at a feedlot to better understand what those jobs are that they have, what goes into that, and what they might be interested in. We've had great success with that, and some of the companies and businesses we've worked with have continued to host those immersion activities on their own as we try to spark interest in this next generation.
Sounds great. Now, before we let you go, we do have to talk about, there was an anniversary from the land of Kansas. Already 40 years. That just seems amazing.
Yeah, so last week actually at the Capitol, we were able to celebrate our 45th anniversary for From the Land of Kansas. And we had 16 different companies here sampling some of their food products that they sell. And we've seen tremendous growth in our From the Land of Kansas program, which helps promote small businesses that produce products that are grown, raised, or developed here in the state.
40 years, 45, when you're 25, what's 5 years? No, I know it was a long time. So, okay, so Kelsey, if folks want to learn about all the different things that the Department of Agriculture does, even though, you're featured here every other week, but sometimes we, just people may want to learn a little bit more about what we talked about today. So where can they find that information?
Absolutely. So we have our state agency website is agriculture.ks.gov, and you could go there and find information about the various programs that we administer, as well as you could be directed to the From the Land of Kansas or any of the ag marketing resources that we have out there to support Kansas agribusiness.
Very good. All right, Kelsey, thanks a lot. Again, congratulations on another great ag month in Kansas.
Thank you.
Kelsey Olsen, who is the Assistant Secretary of Agriculture with the state of Kansas, has joined us. We'll have more coming up in just a moment.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
March is just halfway over, but there is so much for the soybean industry to celebrate and share. The inaugural National Bio-Based Products Day fell on March 8th. The celebratory day recognized USDA's Bio-Preferred program's 20 years of successfully transitioning the federal government to purchasing renewable products grown by farmers right here in the U.S. Just 2 days later, the Farmers for Soil Health initiative from the United Soybean Board became official when U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack signed the $95 million Climate Smart Commodities Grant with USB farmer leaders at his side. This grant offers financial and technical assistance for farmers in 20 states to adopt ideal environmental practices on their farms. The United Soybean Board has also announced the open application to participate in the See for Yourself program, which offers soybean farmers the chance to evaluate the checkoff's work firsthand during the summer and fall. If this program interests you, find the application at www.unitedsoybean.org. A little closer to home, the Kansas Soybean Commission celebrates the appointment of Commissioner Lance Rezac to the Executive Committee on the U.S. Soybean Export Council Board of Directors. Rezac stepped into the Vice Chair role for the 2023-2024 term. Stay up to date on more good news from the Soybean Checkoff the rest of March and beyond by subscribing to the USB email list and following your soy organizations on social media.
The history and tradition of farming and ranching in Kansas lives on today as agriculture remains at the heart of our state's health and prosperity as the largest industry and economic driver in Kansas. Hi, I'm Heather Lansdowne with the Kansas Department of Agriculture, and I hope you join all of us at KDA as we recognize the month of March as Kansas Agriculture Month and March 21st as Kansas Agriculture Day. We are spending the month celebrating the contributions of the ag community and raising awareness that the crops and animals grown on farms and ranches across the state are feeding Kansas families as well as families around the world. Every year on Kansas Ag Day, we celebrate by joining our industry partners in the Capitol to share information about Kansas agriculture. The economic impact of agriculture is seen in all 105 counties, with 73 agriculture, food, and food processing sectors combining for a direct output of $53.4 billion in the Kansas economy. In Kansas, there are nearly 46 million acres of farmland, which accounts for 87% of all Kansas land, some harvested for crops and some serving as pasture land for grazing animals. In addition to growing crops and raising livestock, the Kansas agricultural sector includes food processing, research and education, renewable energy production, agribusiness, technology, and many value-added enterprises. Kansas farmers and ranchers make a global impact, exporting more than $5.35 billion in agricultural products. Find out more about Kansas Agriculture Month on our website, agriculture.ks.gov/KSAgmonth, or follow along on social media at #KSAgDay and #KSAgmonth as KDA celebrates the Kansas ag industry this March.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Hi, I'm Lanier DeBruzzi with the Sorghum Checkoff. As the Director of Food Innovation and Institutional Markets, I'm thrilled to be able to talk to you today about many attributes of sorghum. Today, we're going to focus on whole grain varieties. In partnership with the Whole Grains Council, we invite you to try whole grains, which is easy and delicious with sorghum. Why whole grains? Well, research has shown that including whole grains in your diet helps decrease the risk of certain diseases like heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. The good news is there's a wide variety of whole grain sorghum options to choose from. These varieties have the outer layer or hull still intact. They include the whole grain, flour, flaked, bran, and popped. Let's dig into these a little more. Whole grain sorghum comes in a variety of colors, everything from white to black and burgundy hues. And with any food, different colors impart different nutrients. In fact, one of the areas of emerging research that we're looking at is the darker the grain, the more the antioxidant property. Whole grain sorghum can be cooked on your stovetop, in your slow cooker, or in your pressure cooker. It's the perfect side dish. It can also be in addition to a soup or stew or the base of a grain bowl. Next up, flour. Whole grain sorghum flour is simply the whole grain that has been ground to a fine powder and can be used in baking as a gluten-free alternative to wheat flour. Flaked and bran are great crunchy additions to cereal and granola. And last up, one of my very favorite versions is the popped sorghum. Popped sorghum is a very small, nutty, crunchy flake that will not get caught in your teeth. There are many ways to include sorghum in any meal or snack, and you can feel good about it. Whole grain sorghum is an excellent source of 12 essential nutrients, including protein, fiber, zinc, and iron. It's also naturally gluten-free, non-GMO, and a natural source of antioxidants. You know, as a dietitian, I love talking about how foods can help nourish our bodies, but it's also important to talk about how foods can nourish our land. Sorghum is called the resource-conserving ingredient for a reason. One of its superpowers is its adaptability to different climate changes like heat or drought, as it requires 30% less water than other grains. And nationally, 91% of the acres of sorghum planted rely on rain alone to be fed. As you can see, there's many reasons to love sorghum. To find out more, please visit our website at sorghumcheckoff.com and follow us on social media.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Four advanced beef cattle care and health training sessions will be hosted by KLA, the Kansas Beef Council, and Kansas State University Research and Extension during March and April. These checkoff-funded sessions will provide beef producers with up-to-date standards and technologies to improve animal welfare and food safety. Dates and locations for the workshops are March 28th at the City Limits Convention Center in Colby, March 30th at the Butler County Community and 4-H Building in El Dorado, April 11th at the Stanley Stout Center in Manhattan, and April 13th at the Hilton Garden Inn in Hayes. All the meetings will begin at 6 p.m. During each training, K-State Associate Professor and Extension Beef Veterinarian A.J. Tarpoff will walk through best management practices. Topics will include cattle care, planning for extreme weather, proper low-stress cattle handling methods, and other issues critical to cattle production. Each training will begin with a free dinner sponsored by Certified Angus Beef. During dinner, attendees will hear how CAB is sharing the BQA story and every cattleman's commitment to producing healthy, nutritious, high-quality beef with consumers and the brand's licensed partners. All 4 BQA workshops are free to attend. To register for one of the seminars, call the KLA office at 785-273-5115. On-site registration also will be available.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Good morning. This is Jake McCall here at Pinion Ag. This week we received the March USDA Supply and Demand Report, which went largely as expected on the whole. Starting with corn, we saw U.S. ending stocks raised from 1.267 billion bushels in February to 1.342 billion, hitting above the average estimate of 1.308 due to lagging export numbers. In South America, Brazil's corn crop remained unchanged, while Argentina was dropped from 47 million tons to 40 million due to the ongoing drought there. World carryout in corn moved higher from 295.3 million tons to 296.46. In beans, we saw U.S. ending stocks decline from 0.225 billion bushels in February to 0.210, coming in below the trade estimate. Brazilian production again saw no change, while Argentina's crop was reduced from 41 to 33 million tons, which was over 3 million tons below the average estimate. World carryout was reduced from 102.3 million tons in February to 100.01, slightly below trade estimates. Wheat stocks in the U.S. were unchanged at 0.568 billion bushels, while world carryout was reduced from 269.34 million tons to 267. Argentina continues to face the most severe drought on record, while in Brazil, wet weather has slowed harvest of their first bean crop, which is pushing their corn planting back past their ideal time frame, which poses risk for pollination. In other markets, both feeder and live cattle prices continue to climb with reduced carcass weights, a strong cutout value, and overall lower numbers contributing along with cheaper feed grains. Crude continues to drop around between $70 and $80 per barrel, while the dollar has seen a rally based on inflation fears that could pose an issue for exports going forward. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call at 888-452-8751. I'm Jake McCall here at Pinion Ag, and I hope you have a safe and productive day.
That's our show this week. Be social with us online, KansasAgReport.net, or our social media channels. Welcome to spring. Next week, we'll celebrate Kansas Ag Week. I'm Ken Rogers. We'll see you next week on the next Kansas Ag Report.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.